let's keep going. The Modern Library's Top 100 Greatest English Written Novels of the 20th Century. Shall we? Because it's a good list, and it's a fun list, and there is a lot of unexpected treasures on this list. Like, if you just pick this book up, you may not give it a second thought. Some of them are just, they're old, they look quite fusty, and you're not really sure if you want to, well, give the book the amount of time that is going to be required to get what it has to offer. All right, so where did we finish last time? Sophie's Choice. All right, so number 95 is Under the Net by Iris Murdoch. Under the Net was Iris Murdoch's first novel. Personally, I did not like it as much as her second novel, which is Flight from the Enchanter. I thought that one was a lot more fun than Under the Net. The thing I remember most about Under the Net is how impressed I was with Iris Murdoch's imagination. Like, she just seemed to be this literary force. So in this novel, the main character is running around London doing all kinds of things, trying to get money, trying to meet with his friends. And I think even at one point they are swimming in the Thames. And it's important to do it at night so that the police don't catch them. And it's important to do it just when the tide is changing so that they don't get swept out or covered with sewage. And that's all I really remember, except that it was extremely well written and very imaginative and creative. And it made me quite a big fan of Iris Murdoch. And that's why I read her second novel, Flight from the Enchanter, and I enjoyed that one even more because it was even more strange characters, strange situation, these difficult relationships and meetings with people. It was very, very good. And I would recommend Flight from the Enchanter first before Under the Net. And I don't know if you've ever seen any pictures of Iris Murdoch, but she is so stately. Like, she just has this very regal expression in her face. Like, you look at her photos and you're like, wow, there is a woman who has some very definite ideas about society. Number 94, Wide Sargasso Sea by, is it Jean or is it Jean? Maybe it's Jean Rice. Jean Rice was born in Dominica in 1890. Wow, really? She began to write when the first of her 3 marriages broke up. There is an interestingly constructed sentence, wouldn't you say? I think you know that I try not to give too much away because I don't want to spoil any of your enjoyment of reading. So I really do try to give you as little information about the plot as I can so as not to influence your appreciation of the literature, but still hopefully encouraging you to read it. But I'm going to be giving away a very big secret about this novel, and I think most people will know it, but I think there will be a lot of people who don't. So Wide Sargasso Sea is a prequel to Jane Eyre, which was written by Charlotte Bronte. So if you've read Jane Eyre, you know that it's the story of this little girl and her parents die and she's sent away to an orphanage and some bad stuff happens at the orphanage. Like, half of the little girls there die of, I think, typhus or malaria, and she goes to work as a servant woman in this rich man's home. How can this book be a prequel? Well, in Jane Eyre, there is someone living in the attic of this rich man's house where Jane Eyre is at first a servant. Okay, are you with me? There is someone in the attic, and Wide Sargasso Sea is of how that person came to be in the attic. So I don't feel I'm doing a very good job for the people who've not read Jane Eyre and have no idea what I'm talking about. Aside from the Jane Eyre stuff, this is the novel of, I think, the second or even the third generation of white landowners on a Caribbean island, perhaps even slave owners who were operating on, I don't remember if it's Martinique, Jamaica, St. Lucia, where the British people realized they could force the native population to work in slave conditions, usually in the sugar trade. And if it wasn't sugar, then it was a byproduct of the sugar trade, which was rum. Anyway, now the native population are looking at the white overlords, I think is the correct vocabulary. And they're like, well, we're not working for you anymore. And we're not even going to pretend that we are happy with your existence on this island. So you can remain in your big white house on the top of the hill for now, but tensions are rising. This white woman who is raised with black people, by black people, and feels more black in her spirit than white, realizes that for her own safety, she should go to England. Yeah, so it is quite a good book about that, the tension, the black and white, the Caribbean island situation, which is a compelling point in our history, which doesn't get looked into as much as it could in terms of literature and film and history, really. But I don't know. I don't pay attention to what's going on in the cinema anymore. Which one should you read first? First, Jane Eyre or Wide Sargasso Sea? I think you should read Jane Eyre because chronologically, even though this story takes place first, Jane Eyre was written first. So read that one by Bronte, and actually that's good. Don't think that Jane Eyre is boring because of the name Bronte. I know, I used to do the same thing. Oh, Charlotte Bronte, that must be dull as shit. No, it's quite good, like right from the get-go. Jane Eyre is an excellent novel to read, and you're not doing yourself any favor by saying, oh, the classic stuff is boring. It's really not. And then read this one. You see that's a skinny one, but it adds so much to the story of Jane Eyre. It's fantastic. Number 93 is another one that I do have a copy of, The Magus by John Fowles. I think it's Fowles, like the guy I talked about last week, Paul Bowles. Look at that, huh? The blue pages. I love those old, the blue pages and the red pages. Oh, this weird heavy metal, sexy cover. Oh, wow. Look at that. Can you see that? February 17th, 1979. This book is at least 43 years old, and he doesn't look a day over 30, does he? I have never read a novel with more twists and turns in my life. About halfway through this novel, which is quite a big one, like this is a big boy, 668. By the time you get to page 300, you're thinking, there can't be too many more twists and turns. We've had dozens already. How many more can there be all the way to the end? It just keeps getting stranger and more complex and more complicated. And when you think you have an idea of where it's going, it goes somewhere else. Every single time. It starts off so nicely. There is a young man. I think he's just a teenager. His parents died. He's a bit heartless. He says, oh, isn't it the greatest luck a young man could have to be parentless and inherit their wealth and just to be free for the rest of your life. And he decides that, I think because his parents left him some money, he's not a very diligent student, and he ends up going to, I believe it's to Greece, to teach English. While he's there, he embarks on one adventure after another, catapulted in a way by this eccentric neighbor who just leaves these clues and hints at what might be going on. This novel is really, do we say a thriller for a novel? A thriller implies Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible, but this novel is certainly thrilling. Like with a murder mystery, like there's one question: who done it? Right? We want to know the final piece in the puzzle. But this, I imagine somebody told you, so I'm organizing a scavenger hunt. I've taken this 2,000-piece puzzle and I've hidden the pieces throughout the city, and I'll give you some clues as to where some of them are located, and your job is to put the puzzle together based on that. Perhaps too frustrating for some readers. I mean, it is long. Anything over 600 pages, I get a bit down in the mouth, as they say. However, I think if you do have the courage and you do 10 pages a day, 20 pages a day, 20 pages a day, and then you're all done in 30 days? Yeah, 20 pages a day and you're done. 1 month. Just do it bit by bit, day by day, and you've got it. Then you could take it to work and show it to people. Say, yeah, I read this. It's really strange. Okay. The last two for today, really good, and they're somewhat similar. Number 92, Ironweed by William Kennedy. I had never heard of Ironweed. I had never heard of William Kennedy. I picked up the book because it was on the list. I think I read it in 2-3 days because it is just so perfectly written. It's a story of an ex-baseball player who's become something of an alcoholic and a hobo, a drifter, and just a few days in his life of how he tries to make it. And I believe, it's a long time ago since I've read it, I believe that he has drifted around America for a while, and he has returned to Albany, where he's from, to see if he can locate any of his people. His life, it's just everything about it is hard times. That's Ironweed. Bit of a hard one, but it's just written with this fresh and engaging style that I loved. I just could not believe that I'd never heard of William Kennedy before, and because of Ironweed, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are all Kennedy right there. So those 4 books that I just showed you, those are all William Kennedy's books. William Kennedy, I believe, always placed his novels in Albany, New York. I think that's where he's from, and that's where he wanted to write about. And it seems that he's interested in the lives of criminals, gangsters, lowlifes, interesting people who make excellent subject matter for novels. And I don't know if it was his intention, but because his novels are set in Albany, there is this series. It's known as the Albany series. And I believe the first one is Legs. That's the red one back there. And the second one is Billy Felon's Greatest Game. That's the beige one. And the third one in the series is Ironweed, and that is his triumph. And there's a few others, like the tall one back there, that is Quinn's book. And they made a film of this novel in the 80s, which I think they did their best. Jack Nicholson, Meryl Streep, even Tom Waits. It's just that I don't think you're going to be able to make a Hollywood blockbuster about the lives of very close to the edge homeless people. But for literature, I mean, that is the beautiful stuff. Okay, hold on to your seats. Tobacco Road by Erskine Caldwell. I know, nobody's heard of this book. If you don't like the really dirty stuff, here's the place to stop watching the video, because Tobacco Road is some of the really dark filth in literature. I don't think this is going to be maybe 20% of you. It is about this family, the Lesters, rural Georgia, at the lowest point of the Great Depression. Like, these are some white redneck farmers with nothing to farm. There's no money. They're existing on hope, it seems. No shoes, no school, no food. Even hard to consider these people as human beings. They're so close to livestock, but human beings they are. In this novel anyway, they have 2 primary desires: to eat, because it seems like they're constantly starving, and to have sex. And I'll tell you about the first scene in the novel, all right? And just, you can make your decision on whether you want to read this novel based on this first scene. So there's the Lester family. They're just sitting on the porch hoping that food will come to them. And their neighbor, Love, L-O-V, he comes over to Mr. Lester to complain that Love married Mr. Lester's daughter. And Love is coming over to complain. He says, Lester, that 12-year-old girl you married to me, she won't sleep with me in the bed. She's always sleeping on a pallet. Every night sleeps on a pallet. I'm getting so's I don't know what I'm going to do about it. So Mr. Lester said, well, that's your problem. He said, if she doesn't sleep with me in the bed, I'm going to bring her back to you, and then you got another mouth to feed again. And that's why Mr. Lester married the daughter away, so there would be, fewer people to take food away from him. So, well, I don't want that girl to come back here. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go over with you, and we'll catch her, and we'll tie her to the bed, and after 2 or 3 days tied to the bed, she'll get used to it. That's the beginning of the book. These 2 men are going to go catch this child, tie her to the bed, so she gets used to being his wife. There you go. So, do you want to read the novel or not? So I think 70-80% of you are quite horrified and are thinking to yourselves, well, I'm never going to read that book. And I think there's about 20 or 30% of you who are curious, perhaps even snickering a little bit at the ridiculousness and the horrible thought of this taking place. I mean, it is literature, it's fiction, it's not real. This is not anybody's autobiography. It's not real. Like, that is the saving grace. We can read about this knowing that it's not real. And that is the story of this book. There are these like rednecks who are living in such a primitive manner, and it's just all about trying to get food. And if they get some food, then the very next thought that comes to them is, okay, somebody to have sex with. It's a short book. I found it to be terrible and kind of funny at the same time. Funny in the way that you laugh with relief, that you know it's fiction and these are not actual people, even though those people might have or might even still exist to this day. It is a series of comedic situations where they have this ploy to get money and it fails completely because they're too stupid to pull it off. You see, I'm smiling when I'm talking about it because throughout the horror that goes on in this book, it is kind of funny. Like, imagine The Grapes of Wrath with a lot of dirty incest and more poverty and about 400 pages shorter, and then you've got Tobacco Road. So that one's not for everyone. It's one of those books that invariably I'm reading it on the public transportation, and then all of a sudden I hit one of those scenes and it's like, oh man, I hope nobody on the metro knows what I'm reading here, because that is some dirty filth I just read about. God damn. Tobacco Road, Erskine Caldwell. It's an old book. Like Jesus Christ, for somebody who you've probably never heard of, go to Wikipedia and see how many books this guy has. It looks like a small library collection he's got. Like, he published a lot of work. All right, everyone, so there's the next chapter of the list. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm having a lot of fun with this list. I'm sorry that I have to say that so many of these books I don't remember very clearly. Oh God, it just got dark. So many of them I haven't read for a really long time, so I'm sorry if my memory seems foggy, but it is. Sometimes it just happened that I read quite a few of these novels really close together because, as I said, I would bring a suitcase full of novels back with me to Hungary, and I'd read them. I would try to make them last, but I would read them in a couple of months at best. If you've stuck around to this part of the video, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's helping me to grow the channel. I don't know if you know this, but to make any money on YouTube, you need a minimum of 1,000 subscribers and as well 4,000 viewing hours. And currently I'm at about 250 subscribers. So that's not bad, that's a quarter. And for viewing hours, I think 550. So that's not too good. That's only an eighth of the amount of time that I need. To all the people who are really helping me with the channel and helping grow the channel and showing your support in the comments. There's a few people who comment on almost all of the videos, and I'm always happy. Like, I always, I recognize you. There's Stefan and there is Nikki. It brings a smile to my face when I see that you've commented, because I'm doing my best with the very limited technical experience I have. Thank you to those people. Grant Loves Books. I'm Grant. This is the list. It's awesome.